Hi everyone, how are you? I'm good and welcome to my channel, Nini's Storytime. I hope you all are enjoying my stories and other travel videos. And also, if you have not yet subscribed my channel, then please do subscribe so that I can share more interesting videos with you. But now, it's time for a story. Today we're going to read The Selfish Giant. Once, many years ago, there was a great, gorgeous garden covered with a bed of grass and soft and cool as a pillow. Around the garden, lovely flowers were scattered, tulips and violets and daisies and mums. Among these flowers stood proud peach trees that bore pink blossoms in the spring and bore plum fruit in the fall. Birds sat in the trees, filling the garden with their songs. They seemed to call, "Children, come to your garden and play." Each day, on their way home from school, the children would come to the garden. They would lie in the cool green grass and hide among the trees. They would pick flowers for their mothers and peaches to eat. But one day, the giant returned, for this was his garden. The giant had been away for 7 years, visiting his cousin, the orc. The giant and the orc had finally talked about all there was to talk about, as neither was much of a talker, and the giant had decided to come home to his castle. When he got there, he saw the children playing in his garden. "What do you think you are doing, playing in my garden?" roared the giant in a very giant sort of way. The children were frightened and scurried away, dropping their peaches and school books and flowers as they ran. "This is my garden," said the giant, "and nobody can play in it except me." To make this clear, the giant built a wall around the garden and put up a sign that said, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." Now, the children had nowhere to play. They tried playing in the street, but it was too dirty and busy and dangerous. They tried playing outside of the school, but were shooed away as school was over. With nowhere else to go, the children would spend their days walking around the high garden wall, remembering their fun they used to have inside. Soon, spring turned to summer, and summer became fall, and fall gave way to winter. Once winter said farewell, spring came again. Everywhere the children looked, there were birds and blossoms. Everywhere, that is, except in the selfish giant's garden. You see, in the selfish giant's garden, it was still winter. The birds refused to sing if there were no children to listen to their songs. The trees refused to blossom if there were no children to climb them and eat their fruit. The only ones happy with this were Snow and Frost. "Spring has forgotten all about the giant's garden," Snow cheered. "We can live here forever," Frost cried. Snow covered up the green grass with her white quilt, and Frost painted the peach tree silver. Then Snow and Frost invited their good friends, North Wind and Hail, to stay with them. These friends were delighted with their new home. North Wind roared around the garden day and night, calling, "I quite like it here!" Hail crashed and bashed the roof of the selfish giant's castle, calling, "Let me in! Let me in!" "I don't know where spring is," said the selfish giant, looking at his cold, white garden. "It's awfully late for this sort of weather." But spring never came to the selfish giant's garden, for it did not like selfish people. Summer did not come to the garden either, for its sunshine and nice weather do not mix well with people who have cold hearts. When fall would fill every other garden with golden fruit, it passed by the selfish giant's garden, saying, "He is too selfish to get anything from me." And so, it always stayed winter in the selfish giant's garden. It remained the place where one could always find the north wind, hail, frost, and snow dancing across the frozen ground and through the frosty trees. One day, the selfish giant saw a small flower poke its head through the snow. But when the flower saw it was winter, and when it read the selfish giant's sign, it crawled back into the ground and fell back asleep. One morning, the selfish giant was lying in bed when he heard music outside. The song was so lovely that he thought it must have been a marching band or an orchestra. Really, it was just a small bird chirping outside his window. It had been so long since the selfish giant had heard any music at all, it sounded like the most beautiful music in the whole wide world. Hail had stopped bashing and north wind had stopped roaring, and the smell of flowers filled the air. The selfish giant walked around and found that a small child had slipped through a hole in the garden's high wall. The trees were so glad to have a child back that they burst into blossoms of pink and white. The birds chirped and cheered with joy. The flowers all peeked out of the ground to see what was going on. Spring had returned and melted the snow and frost. Seeing that spring had returned to the selfish giant's garden, many children climbed inside. The children rolled in the cool green grass. They climbed up the proud peach trees. They picked flowers for their mothers and ripe fruit to eat. The children were so glad that winter had finally melted away. The selfish giant's heart melted as well. "How awful and selfish I have been!" he cried. "Children, little children, I am so sorry for being so selfish. This is your garden now." With that, the giant picked up his giant axe and knocked down the high wall. And from that day on, the giant would sit in his beautiful garden each afternoon and listen to the sound of the birds as they sang and the children as they played. The end. So how was it? If you liked it, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below for more. Bye!